How are Kafka, the Trailblazer, and Himeko connected? The Trailblazer's current body is created during the prologue, and the Stellaron could even be what's powering it, but they used to exist before. Kafka is even relieved that they remember her upon waking up. Kafka, who until that point in the prologue seemed callous and calculating to the point of pretending to play the violin while she knew people were dying around her, suddenly becomes incredibly tender towards them to boot, and the Trailblazer is equally fond of them, considering they don't want her to leave them. But what made me make this video sooner than I would have otherwise is this. This is a screenshot from the simulated universe, Star Rail's take on roguelikes. In each floor of the dungeon, there's a chance to encounter someone you know as an NPC who will ask you a question and give you a reward based on your response. Every other NPC is someone the Trailblazer meets after the prologue, except Kafka. They also briefly think of Kafka when in trouble fighting the boss in the space station too, so even though their memory is hazy, the Trailblazer does feel something for them. That brings us to this interaction. This is actually the second I've seen. In the first, Kafka just says Astrea is important to the Stellaron hunters, but this is a much more intimate response. Just look at what she says. She says she waited a long time to meet them and that she had to be patient until everything was perfect for them to meet. She even says she and the Trailblazer are each other's destinies. Granted, that last part sounds like a threat, but combined with everything else, I was joking when I called her your literal mommy in an earlier video, but it really does seem like Kafka was some sort of mother or older sister figure to the Trailblazer in their past life. Maybe the Trailblazer died during a mission for the hunters and she took it badly, hence how tender she is upon recreating them. I like the implications here, and I'm now really interested in seeing what comes of these two's relationship. With any luck, Kafka will be a reoccurring villain in the story going forward, like Signora in Genshin, but ideally that'll be the only thing that two have in common. Now, Himeko. Admittedly, we don't have much to go on here. Himeko says she remembers the Trailblazer but isn't fully sure about how herself. Let's assume she's being honest about that for the time being. She runs the Astral Express, so it's likely they crossed paths at an earlier stop, but Himeko is also the one who found the Astral Express and repaired it in the first place. That's a much more significant event in her life, which in turn would make anyone she met then stand out, while at the same time being so long ago that her memory of the specifics could be hazy. And what could have made something as powerful as the train crash? Akivili's death? Maybe the Trailblazer was partially responsible for one or both of those things. And finally, the Trailblazer. What makes them special? Were they always able to store Stellarons, or is that just a perk of their new body? And in the scene I mentioned earlier, they see glimpses of Himeko, maybe a memory on its own, sure, but also Bronya and Sela, as well as Kokolia. The Trailblazer, at least in that moment, could see the future. Only Elio and Terminus have that ability, and I've talked about the connection between those two in the past. So where does the Trailblazer fit into that? Are they yet another emanator of Terminus? Maybe one who lost their memory and most of their power after whatever cost them their original body? Or could there be a reincarnation of Elio himself? We haven't seen Elio after all. For all we know, he's long since died, and the hunters are carrying out instructions he wrote years in advance. A far-fetched theory perhaps, but considering his ability to see the future is near flawless, who knows? Breaking news! Another thing that stuck out to me about the prologue is the way Kafka says the things she does, how it seems almost like hypnosis. If you look at a loading screen entry, it says she uses enchantment of words to set the Trailblazer on their journey, so yes, it is hypnosis. This definitely muddies the water and adds weight to the she's actually manipulating you school of thought, but I still think there's at least some genuine affection there. One other thing I forgot to mention in this video is this shot during the Trailblazer's vision, of a gentle smile on Kafka's face while surrounded by light. The light is coming from behind the POV figure, implying the Trailblazer unleashed some sort of power as they did when protecting March, or undergoing some sort of powerful change, and Kafka's expression is either an I'm proud of you look or an all according to Keikaku look. Considering everything else, including the fact that Elio said Kafka had to be the one to choose their gender, that could go either way, but I'm leaning towards the former simply because it would make for a more interesting story in my eyes. It would also support the theory of the Trailblazer being Elio too, if Kafka saw him as more than just a boss. Of course, this shot could be a vision from the future, but I still think my points apply, since everything I said could just as easily apply to an event in the future, post-reunion with Kafka. By the way, if gender is irrelevant for the receptacle, they could also be one of the mystery Aeons, since all of them use gender-neutral terms. If this is the case, it would mean Himeko either has a sixth sense for Aeons to recognize them, perhaps she's an emanator after fixing Akivili's Astral Express, or that she has a terrible memory. But if we assume she only briefly saw the Trailblazer, maybe she didn't get a good enough look. Just to, give her some credit. Okay, now I'm done. Thanks for making it to the end of another Star Rail video. Please let me know what you think in the comments, share this video with others you think would like it, and check out the link in the description for your shot at entering the beta as well. There's plenty more spaces to go and plenty of time to experience everything it has to offer to boot. As an aside, the Trailblazer cannot change their name once decided in their prologue. I wanted to offer this as further proof that the Trailblazer had a life of their own before the story, but that could change later, so let's just put a pin in it for now. And for now, thanks again for watching, and as always, have a great day.